Hey guys, happy Monday. We are going to be reading number 24, Earthquake in the Early Morning today. So go ahead and get your thinking caps on because I'm going to have a question for you at the end of these two chapters. All right, here we go. We are going to read the prologue at the beginning of this book to refresh our memories because we have been reading a lot recently. One summer day in Frog Creek, Pennsylvania, a mysterious treehouse appeared in the woods. 8-year-old Jack and his 7-year-old sister Annie climbed into the treehouse. They found that it was filled with books. Jack and Annie soon discovered that the treehouse was magic. It could take them to the places in the books. All they had to do was point to a picture and wish to go there. Along the way, Jack and Annie discovered that the treehouse belongs to Morgan Le Fay. Morgan is a magical librarian from Camelot, the long-ago kingdom of King Arthur. She travels through time and space, gathering books. In Magic Treehouse books number 5 through 8, Jack and Annie helped free Morgan from a spell. In books number 9 through 12, they solved 4 ancient riddles and became master librarians. In Magic Treehouse books 13 through 16, Jack and Annie had to save 4 ancient stories from being lost forever. In Magic Treehouse books 17 through 20, Jack and Annie freed a mysterious little dog from a magic spell. In Magic Treehouse books 21 through 24, Jack and Annie have a new challenge. They must find 4 special kinds of writing from Morgan's library to help save Camelot. They are about to set off to find the last of these. Chapter 1, Tweet Tweet. Jack sat up in bed. He stared out his window. The sky was dark gray. The sun would be rising soon. It's almost time, he whispered to himself. The day before, in the Magic Treehouse, Morgan's note had said, "Come back tomorrow in the early morning." Jack jumped out of bed. He put on his jeans and t-shirt, then he grabbed his backpack and crept out into the hall. Jack peeked into Annie's room. She wasn't there. He slipped downstairs and out the front door. Annie was sitting on the porch steps. Jack sat down beside her. "What are you doing?" he asked. "I was waiting for the birds to start singing," said Annie. "Then I was going to wake you up." Jack and Annie watched the sky go from dark gray to light gray. Then the birds began their song. "Tweet, tweet," said Annie. Without another word, Jack and Annie left their porch. They headed up their street to the Frog Creek woods. It was cool beneath the trees. Jack and Annie hurried through the woods to the rope ladder. It hung from the tallest oak. At the top of the oak was the Magic Treehouse. They climbed up into the treehouse. It was barely light inside. Annie picked up the note lying on the floor. She held it up to the window and read aloud. "Dear Jack and Annie, Camelot is in trouble. To save the kingdom, please find these 4 special kinds of writing from my library. Something to follow, something to send, something to learn, and something to lend. Thank you, Morgan." Jack took a deep breath. "Okay," he said. "We have our first special writing, a list from the Civil War." "And we have the second," said Annie, "a letter from the Revolutionary War." "We have the third," said Jack, "a poem from a pioneer schoolhouse." "Now we just need 1 more," said Annie. "I wonder why we have to find these special writings from Morgan's library. How are they going to save Camelot?" "I don't know," said Annie, "but let's get going so we can solve the mystery." Where's our research book?" They looked around the treehouse. Their Pennsylvania book, the book that always brought them home, was lying in the corner. Beside it was another book. Annie picked it up. "This is it," she said softly. She showed the book's cover to Jack. It said, "San Francisco, California, 1906. "California?" said Jack. "I've always wanted to go to California." "Me too," said Annie. She laughed. "I guess I told Miss Neely the truth after all." "Yeah," said Jack, smiling. The magic treehouse had taken them to a pioneer school in their last adventure. There, Annie had told the teacher, Miss Neely, that they were on their way to California. Annie pointed at the cover of the California book. "We really wish we could go there," she said. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster, and then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2. Thunder Under the Ground. "Nice clothes," said Annie. Jack opened his eyes. Annie was wearing a blue and white dress with a big sailor collar and white stockings. Jack was wearing brown knee-length pants, a jacket, a cap, and a tie. His backpack had become a leather bag. He and Annie both wore short, lace-up boots. A church bell started to ring. Gong, 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 gong. "It rang 5 times, said Jack. "It must be 5 in the morning." "Yeah," said Annie. She was looking out the window. Jack looked with her. The early morning air felt fresh and cool. The treehouse had landed in a tree at the bottom of a hill. Painted wooden houses and gas lights lined a quiet cobblestone street. A trolley car moved along the tracks up the street. It rounded the top of the hill and disappeared. Tall buildings towered farther off. The sun was behind them, making pink streaks in the blue sky. "It's really pretty here," said Annie. "Yeah," said Jack. He opened the research book and read, "On Wednesday, April 18th, 1906, San Francisco was the biggest city on the west coast of the United States. It had a population of 500,000 people. It was also one of the loveliest cities in the country." Jack pulled out his notebook. He wrote, "San Francisco, April 18th, 1906. Biggest city in the West. Lovely." "Let's go," said Annie impatiently. Jack looked back at the book. He wanted to learn more. "Now," said Annie. She took the book and notebook away from him and put them into his leather bag. "Let's not waste any more time." Annie left the treehouse. "Doing research is not wasting time," Jack called after her. But he slung his bag over his shoulder and followed Annie down the rope ladder. When they had both stepped onto the grass, Jack looked around. "Where to?" he said. "Anywhere," said Annie. "Let's just explore and see the sights. We can be tourists." "Okay," said Jack. "But don't forget, we have to find the writing for Morgan's library." They started up the cobblestone street. As they walked up the steep hill, the sun rose above the tall buildings. The early light turned everything to gold. Stones, street lamps, and the glass windows of the silent houses. "It's so quiet and peaceful," said Annie. "Yeah, everyone must still be sleeping," said Jack. Suddenly, out of the quiet came a deep, rumbling noise. Jack stopped. He grabbed Annie's arm. "What's that?" he said. The noise got louder. It sounded like thunder coming from under the ground. The earth started shaking. Church bells clanged wildly. The whole street began to move. The cobblestones rolled like waves in the ocean. "What's happening?" Annie cried. Chimneys fell off roofs. Gas lights toppled over. Bricks crashed to the street. "Get down!" shouted Jack. "Cover your head!" Jack and Annie crouched on the ground with their arms over their heads. All around them was rumbling, clanging, crashing, and breaking. Then the world grew still. The rumbling stopped. Jack and Annie raised their heads. The air was filled with dust. "It's over," said Jack. "That must have been an earthquake," said Annie. "I think so," Jack agreed. "I guess I should have let you do a little more research on this place," Annie said. "Yeah, probably," said Jack. "Except I don't know exactly what we could have done." Jack slowly stood up. His legs felt wobbly. As he brushed off his pants, the deep rumbling came again, louder than before. Then the terrible shaking started. It was even harder than before. Jack was hurtled to the ground. The earth trembled and quaked. Jack bounced against the hard cobblestones. "Annie!" he cried. He tried to stand, but fell again. Through the dusty air, he saw the tall buildings swaying against the sky. Roofs were caving in. Up and down the street, bricks, glass, and concrete showered down. It seemed like a long time before the dreadful noise and shaking finally stopped. Chapter 3, The Great Shake. Alright guys, that's where we're going to stop today. And your question today is, what are some new or unusual words or things that you've noticed or heard in these chapters? Did you learn anything about the city of San Francisco or the things that were around back then? Did Jack's notes give you any hints of some new words? Comment in the discussion board below with any of your thoughts. Alright, I'll see you tomorrow.